Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the awesome Katherine Silva. Katherine, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
No, it is such an honor for me to have you here. But before we talk about the reason I asked you to come here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are an ace Maine horror author, a connoisseur of coffee, good for you, and a victim of cat shenanigans. Your favorite flavors of the genre mix grief and existentialism, which you combine with your love of the New England wilderness in your work. So, how long have you been writing for?
Professionally, I actually started in 2010, so I've been in it for 13, give or take 13, 14 years.
Okay. And like I said, writing, like you said, professionally, probably been doing it your whole life, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like it's something you're born with to have that type of patience to be able to be a writer because a lot of people talk about the creativity. Patience is something that comes a long way with writing too. And that patience and that creativity has led you to be a two-time Maine Literary Award finalist for speculative fiction and a member of the Horror Writers of Maine. The Horror Writers Association, the New England Horror Writers Association. You are also editor in chief of Strange Wild Press and Dark. I'm not going to say this right.
It's okay.
Taiga.
Taiga, yeah.
Okay, Taiga Creative Writing Consultant. So writing is something that's very, very special to you. What made you decide to pursue this as a profession?
It was kind of a spur of the moment decision. I had been working how do I got out of a kind of rough relationship, and I didn't really have any plans. I had done college for a semester and it didn't work, um, and I was working a retail job, and I saw this ad for a writing group. There was like an adult ed writing group, and I decided that I was going to join that and sort of get some peer reviewing going on with my stuff. And then from there, I just had this idea for a book, and I wrote it in like 5 months, uh, and then self-published it later that year, and that's where it sort of started.
And where can people find some of your work?
Well, it's all available online. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the usual places. Your local indie bookstore as well, if you ask for it. And it's all available from my website too, which is katherinesilvaauthor.com.
Well, the good part about that, guys, is you don't have to go far looking for any of those links because I have all of those links as well as Catherine's social media links down in the description. So make sure you're following her to stay up to date on everything that she has coming up for us and more. And make sure you're checking out some of her work. So I know that NDAs and stuff like that happen with books too. Is there anything you're working on right now that you can tell us a little bit about, spoiler free?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of working on a grief horror novel. I'm in the editing stages. It is about a woman's relationship with grief following the death of her husband, and it also concerns the other creatures that feed off of it. So I won't get into too much other than that. It is does take place in Maine, where I'm
Okay.
from. So,
Write about what you know.
yep.
And do you have an ETA on when we may be getting to be able to get our hands on this?
I don't. I'm this one. I'm not self-publishing, so I'm hoping to sell it to somebody, and we'll have to see how it goes. Cross our
Well,
fingers.
I will keep my fingers crossed for you, I promise. And like I said, guys, the best way to be able to stay up to date on when we're going to get a release on that is the website and social media. So make sure you're following, make sure you're checking out the website. Those links are down in the description. So, in order for you to be an author that writes about horror and horror adjacent material, horror had to start for you somewhere. So, now I would like to go back to the past, Katherine, and talk about what it was that got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie, And Catherine, the first horror movie that you watched was?
It was Jurassic Park, which I know some people define it not as a horror movie, technically that blockbuster action adventure, but it's got some pretty horrific scenes in it. There's, lots of blood and limbs and uh big creatures with
It's a
pointy teeth.
total creature feature. I will die
Yeah.
on that hill. I remember when it first came out, and it was on the cover of Fangoria, and people were pissed. And I was like, this is Jaws on the land, man. What are you guys
Yeah.
pissed about? Like, just because it's got a big budget and great special effects doesn't mean it's not a horror movie. Like, this is a total horror flick. If I was trapped alone on Jurassic Park, I'd be offed quickly. And there's a lot of slasher tropes that come along with Jurassic Park as well. But do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
I think that I was probably, 5 or 6 maybe. I it was the 90s, so, really a lot of stuff that may not have passed nowadays for kids was pretty free. um what is funny though is that I was not allowed to see Lost World in theaters when I was older. But yeah, I was probably 5 or 6. And we watched it at home. We had the VHS, so um it was, yeah, special moment.
I still have this on VHS. And I can just picture your parents be like, "Whoa, we remember what Jurassic Park did. No fucking way you're seeing the Lost World on the big screen." Um, so we know, you were younger. You watched it with your parents for the first time, family movie night, which is the best thing to do. Please still do that with your families. I love doing that with my kids and my wife. We have family movie nights at least once a week, and it's fantastic. So this is a movie that, like you said, there's a lot of very heavy scenes in this movie.
Mhm.
Do you remember though which scene it was that affected you the most?
I think honestly, I mean, the opening scene was pretty terrifying. With the worker who gets kind of pulled into the raptor pen. But from there, it was definitely Ellie Sattler going into the electric compound to go turn the power back on. That was just like so creepy and intense,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely sticks with you because it's an enclosed space within this like jungle. Um,
Yeah.
so it had this very liminal space, basementy horror feel.
And like you said, when she's going down there, it's complete darkness. She's trying to get down there. She's being led by radio. Trying
Yep.
to figure out how she can turn the power back on. She finally gets it, and then you get that raptor coming up right behind her. Like
Yeah.
again, total slasher trope of the raptor
Yeah.
coming in right behind you. So again, I completely there's a lot, especially with the raptors, that is very, very slasher. Um, so we know what scene affected you the most, but what would you say your favorite scene from Jurassic Park would be?
Oh, I think some of my favorite scenes from that movie were actually dialogue heavy scenes because I enjoyed how it leaned into the sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
I did read the Michael Crichton novel, which I love. I love how technical it gets.
Yes.
So I like the idea that it wasn't just about the scary scenes. It wasn't about trying to, yeah, it wasn't jump scare heavy. It was definitely rooted in making sure the characters were uh well created and had interaction with each other and had this just, I don't know, great dynamic
Mm-hmm.
presence. One of my favorite scenes, weirdly, is the dining room scene where they're all sitting together in the dining room eating, and Ian Malcolm goes on his little monologue about.
This is some species that was obliterated by deforestation or the building of a dam. Dinosaurs had their shot, and nature selected them for extinction.
That's it.
Man
Yeah,
makes monster. Monster. Like that whole
that whole
dialogue that he has right there.
dialogue.
And that moment is, as a kid, you're like, boring, come on. But as an adult watching that scene, you're like, this makes a lot of sense. And also, you talked about attraction. This is Daddy Jeff Goldblum we're talking
Yeah.
about here.
Yes.
So if he's talking, I'm listening. Dude is one of the sexiest guys in the world, and he's so full of charisma in everything
Yeah.
he does, and his sarcasticness in this movie is just. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Goldblum. I'm a huge fan of him in this movie. So, for being what people call an action adventure type of movie and not wanting to get to the horror elements, there are a lot of kills actually in this movie.
Yeah.
Usually with movies like this, you don't get as many kills as you do with this movie. So, we know we talked about the opening kill a little bit, but what was the kill you would say stuck with you the most from the film?
What's really hard is I think the one that upsets me. There's some that I think are like really great cinematically, and then there's some that upset me. And I think the one that upset me the most is Muldoon because he's such an awesome character. And spoiler, not spoiler, because everybody has had time to read the book.
We've had plenty of.
He lives in the book, and they kill him off on screen. So I was, it's just a really rough scene.
And I'm trying to, because I just watched this recently. Muldoon, he's the hunter guy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And just that moment where it comes in from the side, and you're just like, oh yeah,
I'm not expecting it. It's so good.
He's not gonna make it out of this one.
No, and the clever girl line. It's just
yep. So,
good.
we talk about this movie and the impact that it's had on us. And, Jurassic Park / World, it's all part of a franchise. And it's still going today. They're still making these films today, thank God. And we're about to get another reboot, which I'm not as excited about, but I'll still be watching it. They're supposedly doing another reboot of Jurassic Park. We're supposed to be getting a new Jurassic Park film. But because this is a franchise, I do got to ask, which is your favorite film in the Jurassic Park / World franchise?
It's the original. Although I have a very special place in my heart for The Lost World, because it's so ridiculous. There are so many ridiculous scenes in that movie. And because it was like the forbidden film, the one that I, wasn't allowed
right.
to see. But there's a fantastic scene in The Lost World where these characters are all running into the long grass to escape, and they get picked off by raptors, and this one guy is shouting at them, don't go into the long grass, and then he runs into the long grass and dies. It just, I don't know, it gets me. Also the fact that they made that film so much more entertaining than the book actually was.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and I'm a fan of The Lost World as well. I know that a lot of people shit on The Lost World. I have fun when I watch The Lost World. I've never been watching The Lost World like, oh, I'm so bored. It's a dinosaur movie, man. I'm having a great time. So we know about your first horror movie, Katherine, and what that movie means to you. But here for a second, I do want to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Katherine? What is your favorite movie of all time?
It's Jaws.
Nice.
Adjacent giant man-eating creature, but it's Jaws.
Sticking with the Spielberg, I dig it.
Yeah.
And Jaws, I think, I've always said there's two movies. I'm not anti-remake, anti-requel, like none of that stuff bothers me. It never really has. I don't think it ever really will. But the only two movies I've always said just leave alone, don't touch them, are Jaws and Back to the Future. Just leave them alone. Those are perfect time capsules of their time. Nobody wants to touch those. Nobody wants to talk about those. They're perfect the way they are. Leave them alone. Couldn't agree with you more on Jaws. It's one of those movies that still, when I watch it, I'm just in awe at the things they were able to do and scare you by showing you nothing. It's such a fantastic movie. You have some great choices today. We're talking about Jurassic Park. We're talking about Jaws. people that know me know I'm a creature feature guy. So being able to talk about these movies is very important to me too. So I really love that. But before I let you go, we know about your first horror movie. We know about your favorite horror movie. But we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to Jurassic Park. And what we're going to do here, Catherine, is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. What we're doing here is strictly ranking Jurassic Park on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Catherine, what would your ranking of Jurassic Park be?
I think I would give it a solid 8.
See, and right there, like, it's one of those movies that will always stick with you. There's
Yeah.
still moments that we talk about today. Like, we talk about, as slasher fan, I'm a huge slasher guy. The moment when those kids are in the kitchen and you see that raptor coming up to the window, like, that's a total slasher. That's a slasher trope right there. That's exactly what that is. Like, the two things I'll fight to the death about that are hot takes or unpopular opinions. Jurassic Park's a horror movie. The Terminator's a slasher. Those
Yeah.
two things I will fight to the death. I will die on that hill and I will battle until the last breath in my lungs has given out. So I'm very appreciative of the fact that when I asked you, you were just like, Jurassic Park. There was no hesitation. It was, yeah, it's Jurassic Park. That's what we're doing. So I know I said this at the beginning, guys, but we're at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, all of Catherine's links are down in the description. So make sure you're checking out the website. Make sure you're following her on social media to stay up to date on all the mediums that she's going to have coming out for us in the future. Catherine, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps to build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.